But what we're going to be doing, we're going to be going through this interface. So with that, let's switch over to Fusion. I currently have a default setup in Fusion. With this model that we've got that we're looking at the moment, we're in the sculpt environment. So up in the top left-hand corner, we've got a show data panel. This is where we have all our different projects that we can work on. So one thing with Fusion360 being semi-cloud-based is that you can create folders, or you can create projects that you can share with other people. So if I was to go into, I think I've created one just then called new project, I can in this area upload file data sets that I can share with people. I can go inside them folders and again upload information that I want to share with people. I can go to people and I can invite people and their Fusion accounts. And it's this ability to invite people to those projects which makes Fusion, it's a huge advantage for Fusion360. The integrated collaboration of Fusion360 really is a fantastic thing. It opens up opportunities for the target audience to reach out to people with more expertise. So if there's something that you're not sure on, you'll see it on the forums. Someone will have a problem with the design. They'll reach out on the forum, and they can actually then invite experts to their file to look at their problem, and then collaboratively together they can overcome that problem and develop and learn from each other, and to be able to contribute to their design and get their expertise without being in the same building, region, or even country. We'll be working primarily from the projects folder. So what we've got built into Fusion, right down at the very bottom, there are a number of sample files and folders that we've got in there, projects. At the very bottom, we've got one called Workshop and Events. Now, you may find resources on the internet and learning paths on the internet that refer to various projects that we have here. I think there's been the sheet metal challenge was one of them. The one that we're going to be working from over these next 2 days is the adoption path. So if I double click on the adoption path, and then we've got some various folders in there that we'll be dipping into and out of as we go along. It's only a read-only project though. So the folders and the files that are in there are read-only. So whilst we're working in, if we want to save anything or save any changes that we do, we need to then save it to another project that we need to set up. Again, these are very much like working through these folders is just like navigating through Mac Finder and Microsoft Explorer files. We can close this data panel either by clicking on the Close Data Panel X or just by Hide Data Panel next to it. If we click on that, it disappears to the side again. Other elements in the application bar are File. So up at the top there, we've got File. And we've got some few options down there, so you can start from a new design, start from a file, drawing template, save as, export. Really quite straightforward. If someone wants to share a Fusion360 design but want to do it offline, the export option is really the primary tool to go to. So this one, if you want to go into the export there, you can actually export offline. What a lot of people try and do is export, and it will take them, or they want to download a file, they then have to go to A360 interface. But through this method, you can actually download to your hard drive, and there are a number of different extensions: IGES file, SAT file, STEP file, and obviously the archive file for Fusion that you can save to. You can save it to the cloud. If you save into your computer, you've then got the file navigation button where you can navigate to your hard drive and save it where you want to do. The The Save Archive file will only work directly from this interface. If there are no other designs linked to it, or if it does not have other types of files, drawings linked to it. So if it's purely just a design file, you can export it from that point. If you want to export a design to include any of the linked drawings or files, you'll need to do that through the A360 interface. Otherwise, all the other file types can be addressed from this export tool. You can also save into another project or save to your computer. So from this, I can save it so I can work offline with it. The toolbar itself will change. So this across here at the minute, these particular tools here are all relevant to the sculpt environment. If I was to just change the model environment, you'll notice that the tool set there will change. For example, later today we'll go into the rendering workspace, and what you'll see is the toolbars will change and the environment will change on that workspace. This just stops having a lot of buttons that you won't use on display, because when you're in a different environment, what you don't want to do is have a load of buttons there that are irrelevant for that workspace. So Fusion is quite intuitive, and the developers have removed the buttons that you're not going to use in that workspace to make it easier for the designer, for the user. Looking at some of the other interface options, there is a shortcut menu that is available and changes with your environment if you press the S key. So whilst I'm hovering over the canvas, if I press the S key itself, you'll see I've got a little shortcut box that appears. So at the minute there's extrude in there, there's fillet in there. I can search for other ones. So I wanted the hole tool, to put hole. Now whilst I can click on that there, if there is an arrow up icon at the side, if I click on that, it will add it to this shortcut toolbar. And if I don't want it in that shortcut toolbar, so again, S displays it. If I click and drag, I can just drag it off. So again, if I didn't want that fillet on there, click on it, drag it off the toolbar, and it removes it from the toolbar. So to add it on, it's the up arrow. To remove it, just drag it off that toolbar. So along with the customization of the toolbar, let's look at the customization of the overall interface. By going to Preferences, we can look at changing some of the settings. I don't know if everybody knows, but up at the top right hand side of the menu bar, I've actually got screencast in there, which you can record the work and the keystrokes that you're doing Fusion. So there's a lot of people use that for creating video resources. They click on that and then they can record the strokes and the design or the activities that they want to do in Fusion, and it will record keystroke by keystroke, mouse click by mouse click, exactly what they've done within the model. The next one, job status. If we click on this, this tells me now that I'm working online. You can click that and work offline if you're going on a train journey somewhere that you've not got the internet access. But what also it will tell you, if there's an update with Fusion, when it connects in the cloud, you'll get a status coming up saying that it's starting to download the latest update and when it's ready to reinstall the new update. So you can actually shut it down, and it gives you that information there. Where we've got our name up in the corner here, if I click on that and we can go to Preferences, this opens up our preference dialog box. So we've got a lot of options here. So we've got the general there. A lot of machinists prefer the Z-axis to be the up axis. So you've actually got this option here to change from Y up to Z up. For people coming from SolidWorks, Inventor or Alias, you can change the pan, zoom and orbit shortcuts for the mouse and keyboard, and they can set to the one that you are used to. I prefer to get to know the tool itself and the new shortcuts, but anything to make more people comfortable if they are used to working differently. And for the Inventor user, using the free orbit instead of the constrained orbit might be more comfortable. So again, it's up to the user themselves, but I prefer, if you're actually using a new tool, is to use it as it should be used and not try and fit that new tool around how you've always done it, how you've always used Inventor, how you've always used SolidWorks. And I find that, better if you can get them to do that. We also have options for material. So we come down here, what the appearance will do. So if people are always going to be working in plastics, they can change the setup here. Or if they don't just like the default appearance, because it could be that all day long you're using the same material for your different designs. And what you don't want to do is always come up with the same default metal steel material. So they've got the options there to actually change its appearance and change the actual material that you're working with. The last thing I want to touch on in the preferences is the preview. Right down at the very bottom here. The ability to sign up to technology previews. So if you can actually show students how Fusion is allowing users to get involved with the leading edge developments of the tool as it evolves. So what you can do, you can see there we've got the PCB feature where the eagle integrated, and there's a few more that you can click on that and you can apply and you can sign up to it. And it just gives you that chance of being involved with the development of the actual tool itself. On the left, we have the browser. So if I just cancel out of that now, right at the very end of the help bit, you're learning 3. So there's access here to communities, to the gallery. If you want to know what the product roadmap is, it's there. You can also, which is brilliant, submit an idea. So as you're using Fusion, as your students are using Fusion, if you've got an idea that you think, well, actually, this would be great if it was in Fusion. Why can't they do this? Why can't they add this in? You can actually click on that and you could submit that idea. And that idea goes to the development team. And, there's a number of them that have been put in into the roadmap of the development of the actual software itself. What I'm going to do now is just quickly show you some of the navigation tools. A lot of you will probably be used to them to Inventor, but for those people that are new, I'm just going to start a new file, just a new design. And very quickly, all I'm going to do is just go draw a quick sketch on a work plane, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle there. Pops up on my other PC. Stop that sketch, and I'm just going to extrude it, just a very simple basic rectangle there. What you'll see as I've actually created that rectangle, down at the very bottom of the screen, we have what we call our timeline in Fusion. So what you can see there, right at the very beginning, I created a sketch. That was the first thing that I did, and it added it in. And then as I then went on and did the extrude, I've now got that simple extrude that's added in. So if I wanted to add a fillet in there very quickly, I can add a fillet. I can box select if I want, and manipulators, I can very easily just add a fillet in there. And again, you'll see it's added it to the timeline at the bottom. If at all I want to go back and change anything, I can actually, if I wanted to change that original sketch and put some dimensions to it, if I either right click in the timeline and go edit sketch, or just double left click, it takes me back to that original sketch. And I can then modify, change it. I'm not putting any dimensions in at the moment, I'm just pulling and stretching, stop sketch, and it will update it. And it's same with the extrusion. Again, straight back into it. I can manipulate, I can put my sizes in, press OK. And at the end of it, I can actually drag this marker right to the beginning of my timeline. Never press play. Obviously, it's only a very short model that I've done, but this will play as we see some more complicated models later on. This builds up the history of how it was created, and you can go back in time and you can add bits into if you've missed something out, you've missed an operation out. So if I wanted to put a hole in here before I did the fillets, I could very quickly go back in the timeline. I could create my hole, click on there, and just press OK. You'll see it's put that in, and it's just added it in that time. So you can actually keep your history up to the way that you want to approach your design. Again, you've got the ability to play it. So if someone sent you a model and you wanted to view or comment on how they've created it, you can play that timeline. You can play that animation of how it's done. You can get a feel of how they approach the design. It is possible to work without a timeline and create new geometry using direct modeling, but hopefully we will all encourage students to explore the power the parametric modeling offers. So if we go back to our sketch, for anyone using Inventor, you've probably been used to using the marking menu. We've got that again with Fusion. If I right click there, you'll see we've got a marking menu. The marking menu, say in Fusion, it works in a very similar manner, though it has a couple of extra touches to it. For example, the marking menu in Fusion360 has levels, so I can hover over the sketch tools. So if I right click, hover over the sketch tools, and you notice I get then an array of different pop-ups that come up. So if I wanted then a 2-point rectangle, just go across, straight away I go to my 2-point rectangle tool. And again, in the marking menu, you can still access them with the right-click gesture. So if I went down and to the top left, it picks circles. So first of all, if I just hover down to sketch, you'll see there that's circle. But if I was to right-click down and up, hopefully, what did I get? I didn't get it then. But let's try again. So hold on, cancel. Just got to get it in the right position. So right-click down, up. You can get your circle menu there. So it is quite easy, and it's something that you can get used to using without having to go all the way up to the top toolbars. So you can work there. So that really makes it, you can work the way that you're used to doing. It's just a little more enhanced in Fusion360. You'll notice the sketch palette on the right rather than a pull down. So when I'm doing sketching, and I'm doing rectangle on here, clicking on wherever I want it, you'll notice that the sketch palette's here. What we can do here, we can access all the constraints that we might need when we're setting up our sketches. And we've got a vast array here, coincidental, collinear. We've got different options of like the rectangles, drawing the rectangles. So at this stage, when we've not started drawing, we can actually change the type of rectangle. We can say whether we want construction geometry, or we can change the construction geometry. And again, the sketch grid, snaps, we can turn them on and off here. People may think that, if you've got a small screen, that this takes up quite a bit of space. You can minimize it a little bit, but I think when people are getting used to using Fusion, it's best to keep it open as much as possible. Otherwise, people can start getting a little bit a little bit confused with where they're up to. Some of the display options that we've got whilst we're in the actual drawing mode at the moment, down at the bottom here, we've got the navigation. Sorry, we'll do display first. So we've got, because I said display, so display settings. If I open up display settings, we've got visual style. And again, shaded, takes off the edges. Shaded with hidden, and you can read all them down there, wireframe. I always like to use, where I can, most of all the shaded with visible edges, just give you an idea of how my model's coming on. Moving across, we've got grid settings, so we can turn the grid on, turn the grid off. snap to grid on, snap to grid off. We can just very quickly click on there. We can actually change the grid settings if we want by clicking on the menu there. And we can change whether we want incremental move or whether we want to be a soft move. And something I don't tend to use much of, but if you're used to using other softwares, you might like it. You can actually have multi-screens in Fusion, so you can have your different views, and you can click and work in each individual view screen. I tend to use just the one screen as I'm working away, but again, it's what people are happy using. Also, the visual display. We've got environments. So this is where the students, we've got different ones that are built in. We've got dark skies, grey room. Again, I tend to prefer the photo booth. As we're moving it down, effects. You can turn all these effects on. Obviously, the more effects you turn on as you're in the design area, the more computer resources you're using to keep that going. So ground reflections, spots on a ground reflection came on very faintly then. Object shadows, environmental dome. There's a lot that you can actually do in there, but I tend to just keep it pretty plain and simple at this stage. Up at the top, we've got the view cube. Again, very much like Inventor, if you're used to using that. We've got the home view. We can modify, manipulate, rotate around. And again, you've got your Y-axis, your Z and your X-axis that you can see there. So we can move back now to our PowerPoint. And the next thing that we're going to be looking at is the person-based learning path.